And so today, after 4 years, the people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay.
About 10 months ago, freedom-loving, woke-hating Ron DeSantis was riding high. He was just re-elected as governor of Florida by nearly 20 points. And DeSantis was widely expected to surf that momentum to a presidential bid. He was courting big Republican donors who saw him as the future of their party. At one point in January, the national polling averages had him effectively tied with Donald Trump for the Republican presidential nomination. In fact, one New Hampshire poll from the same month had the Florida governor up 12 points. In short, Ron DeSantis was widely seen as the guy capable of giving Trump a run for his money. But a lot can change in 8 months. Flash forward to today, and DeSantis is very far from the days he topped Trump by double digits in the Granite State. According to a new poll out of New Hampshire, he is now in 5th place. Yes, 5th, trailing a guy called Vivek Ramaswamy, who no one had really even heard of back in January. DeSantis is even trailing Chris Christie. If I told you 8 months ago that Chris Christie would be ahead of Ron DeSantis in a Republican primary poll, you would have laughed in my face. And as DeSantis' polling continues to nosedive, it sure seems like the big donor cash is starting to dry up. The conservative billionaire Ken Griffin, once one of DeSantis' biggest backers, now says he's staying on the sidelines for the primary. And David Sachs, the wealthy Elon Musk ally who helped launch, or should I say, botch DeSantis' disastrous campaign launch on Twitter, is hosting a fundraiser for Vivek Ramaswamy next week. Oh dear. In response to all this bad news, the DeSantis campaign is playing cleanup, saying it's singularly focused not on New Hampshire, but on Iowa. A second place in Iowa, that is, since DeSantis is still polling anywhere between 20 and 30 points behind Trump there. There is no way around it. The DeSantis campaign is in freefall. That is in large part because he lacks any coherent vision for his candidacy. He was trying to just cheat it and say, I'm Trump, without the baggage, without the chaos. It turns out Republican primary voters like the baggage and like the chaos. And turns out DeSantis is really just Trump without charisma or charm or humor or personality. I could go on and on. So, if or when Ron DeSantis eventually drops out, he will return home to a very different environment than the one he left. It's very clear that the Florida governor, in those high-heeled boots that he likes to wear, is not the political giant he once pretended to be. So I have to ask, was it really worth it, Ron? And are you going to try and do this all again in 2028? Because you really don't seem to be enjoying it.
Have a beer win, as always. Yeah.
Well, I'm here. I don't know the other one.
I'm just kidding. I'm not pressed.
Okay, all right. It's good. It's good. All right, we'll say hi to everybody.
Even though we are still 10 months away from the Republican National Convention, two candidates are operating as if the Republican primary is over. The ex-president and criminal defendant, Donald J. Trump, and the incumbent president and non-criminal defendant, Joe Biden. While Trump has for months been running what amounts to a general election campaign, he doesn't even bother turning up to the debates, there is new reporting that the Biden campaign is likewise working on the assumption that Trump will be the GOP nominee next year. At a fundraiser this week, the president warned Trump was out to, quote, destroy American democracy. And he later acknowledged that he expects to run against, quote, the same fella. Now, President Biden is planning to head to Michigan to meet with UAW picketers, something that will no doubt infuriate Donald Trump, who plans to speak to the striking workers the next day. So, with the two biggest names in the 2024 contest ignoring the rest of the field, is the nominating contest just glorified political theater at this point? Tara Setmeyer is a senior advisor at the anti-Trump Lincoln Project and former Republican communications director. And Jennifer Horn is a former Republican who served as chair of the Republican Party in New Hampshire. They both join me now. Good evening to you both. Jennifer, let me start with you. What is your view? Does the primary really matter anymore on the Republican side, given the size and the stability of Trump's lead?
Well, it certainly matters as far as, if there's any chance at all of anybody pushing back on him with messaging or anything else, that's the only opportunity to do it. But no, I don't. There's no non-Trump lane in this primary. There's no candidate who has figured out, even Chris Christie, who has really gone after him aggressively, is not making anywhere near the kind of, progress you would need to get anywhere near Trump. There's no question in my mind that Donald Trump is going to win the primary in New Hampshire and then go on to win as needed, across the country to become the Republican nominee. And that, while that is exciting perhaps to Donald Trump, that is really bad, not just for the party, it's bad for the country.
Yes, it is. Tara, what, if anything, can the other campaigns or the RNC itself do to prevent a likely Trump win? What would you be advising Nikki Haley or even Ron DeSantis to be saying or doing on the debate stage next week?
Oh, there's nothing they can say or do. It's not going to make a damn bit of difference. That ship has sailed. That's why I'm not a Republican anymore, because there's nothing you can say or do to convince these Republican primary voters that Donald Trump isn't their cult leader. And that's where we are. It really is political kabuki theater. At the Lincoln Project, we've been predicting this for over a year and a half. We've been saying that Donald Trump was going to be the Republican nominee a year ago, and people thought we were crazy. And we're like, okay. And we've been proven right once again. You look at Ron DeSantis, and it's just a laughable campaign. He is a terrible candidate. He doesn't want to be there. We put out an ad called electile dysfunction, because that is exactly what Ron DeSantis is suffering from. He has gotten, three campaign resets, 2 campaign managers, and 0 points more in the polls. He's gone absolutely the opposite direction the more people got to know him. He's awkward, he's arrogant, and he doesn't have the charisma that Donald Trump has. And so to think that he could run to the right of Donald Trump and have this cockamamie Iowa strategy that would somehow work for him, it hasn't worked for anyone else. And clearly the donors don't believe it. They've been leaving him left and right. He's hemorrhaging big donors.
Yes. And,
Ron DeSantis is not going to be the answer. So this primary has been over since Donald Trump decided he wanted to run again.
Yes, since he decided he wanted to run again, and all the other candidates said, yes, please run, and we won't criticize you at all.
Right.
Which is also part of the problem.
Second place.
We're going to run for second place. People like Vivek Ramaswamy and probably Nikki Haley running for that VP slot. Jennifer, a new poll out of New Hampshire shows Biden leading Trump by 12 points in a hypothetical matchup, which is higher than the national polling, which shows a much closer race. I wonder if that's due to Trump's minus 32 favorable rating there. You led the state Republican committee. Why do you think these numbers look so bad for Trump? Is it something to do with New Hampshire Republicans being more moderate than others, independents being more left-leaning than right-leaning? What is it?
Right. Well, so in the general election, Trump is going to lose New Hampshire. There's no question about it. He lost it in 16. He lost it in 20. He's going to lose it in 24 as well. New Hampshire is much more a purple state or a moderate state than most people realize. We have for the last 4 governor cycles, we've had a Republican governor, but Democrats have held all of our federal offices. When the Democrats held the governor's office, it went the other way around. And you also have to remember that independents in New Hampshire have a tremendous amount of influence. There are more registered undeclared voters in New Hampshire than there are registered Republicans or Democrats, and they have a tremendous amount of influence. There's no question that Donald Trump will lose New Hampshire.
Tara, you and Jennifer are both conservatives, I think it's fair to say, from the right of the political spectrum, regardless of what you think of the Republican Party today. So I'm not going to get into an argument with you tonight about the pros and cons of strikes. But just from a political perspective, Tara, when you heard Joe Biden's heading to Michigan the night before Donald Trump, what did you make of that move by the White House?
I thought it was brilliant, and that's exactly what they need to do. Joe Biden has credibility with the unions. He's dedicated most of his life to being that guy from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and talking about unions and supporting union workers, which was a core constituency for the Democrats. So he's coming in and he's going to overshadow Donald Trump, because guess what? Joe Biden is the president of the United States, and Donald Trump is a loser who's under indictment, who's a billionaire, and who the UAW workers, the leadership doesn't even want him there, because he's saying, listen, Donald Trump represents everything we're fighting against. So the dynamic there, I think, is going to be fascinating, and it is in favor of Joe Biden because he actually has a record to run on that supports unions. Brilliant move by the White House.
Yeah, it is a brilliant move, and I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when a Donald Trump aide at Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster, wherever he's holed up, brought him the news that Joe Biden's going to be there 24 hours earlier. And he can't even move his visit because he's doing it to try and counter-program against a GOP debate that he's hiding from. We will have to leave it there. Tara Setmeyer, Jennifer Horn, thank you both for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.